The Battle of the Hydaspes, fought in May 326 BCE, stands as one of Alexander the Great's most challenging and strategically significant engagements during his campaign in the Indian subcontinent. This confrontation with King Porus of the Paurava kingdom not only tested the limits of Alexander's military prowess, but also showcased the complexities of warfare against a formidable and resourceful opponent. Hi there, I'm Kyle, the host of History of Human Evolution. With a PhD in history and a love for storytelling, I'm here to guide you through the fascinating journey of our species. If you like to explore the past, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share your thoughts below. The Macedonian army moves eastward, its ranks hardened by years of unbroken conquest. For nearly a decade, Alexander has led his men from the Hellespont to the heart of the Persian Empire, crushing every force that has dared to oppose him. Now, in the summer of 326 BCE, he stands at the edge of a new frontier, the Indian subcontinent. Beyond the Hydaspes River lies his next challenge, an enemy unlike any he has faced before. On the opposite bank, King Porus of the Pauravas prepares for war. His kingdom stretches between the Hydaspes and Aesis rivers, a fertile land of dense forests and powerful rivers, far removed from the arid battlefields of Persia. Porus is no satrap of a crumbling empire. He is an independent ruler with a disciplined army, trained for the rugged terrain of the region. And unlike Darius III, who had fled from the field of battle, Porus is determined to fight. Word of the Macedonian advance has spread through the region, and Porus has had time to gather his forces. His army is formidable, tens of thousands of infantry, thousands of cavalry, and, most crucially, war elephants. Towering above the battlefield, these beasts are trained to charge into enemy ranks, their massive tusks and sheer size capable of breaking even the most disciplined formations. Porus positions them in a line, creating an impenetrable wall of flesh and armor, daring Alexander to attack. The river itself is an obstacle. Unlike the Granicus or the Issus, the Hydaspes is wide, its current strong, its banks muddy and steep. The monsoon rains have swollen its waters, making a direct crossing suicidal. Porus knows this. He camps along the southern bank, watching Alexander's movements, confident that no army can ford the river under his watchful eye. The standoff begins. Alexander does not act immediately. He establishes a camp on the northern bank, mirroring Porus across the water. Each day, he moves his cavalry up and down the river, feigning preparations for a crossing, testing Porus's patience. The Indian king responds in kind, shadowing his movements, unwilling to be drawn into a reckless engagement. Days pass, then weeks. The tension rises. But Alexander is not stalling. He is watching, calculating. He knows he cannot fight on Porus's terms. Instead, he waits for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions to strike. The river is not his obstacle, it is his weapon, and when the storm comes, he will use it. The banks of the Hydaspes are lined with two armies, each preparing for one of the most decisive engagements of Alexander's campaign. King Porus commands his forces from the southern bank, positioned in a formation designed to exploit the full strength of his war elephants. These creatures, the largest battlefield assets of the era, stand in a staggered line across the front, their tusks fitted with iron spikes, their drivers prepared to send them forward at the first sign of an enemy advance. Behind them, thousands of infantry stand in tight formations, ready to fill the gaps left by the elephant's charge. The cavalry is stationed on the flanks, poised to counter any attempt by Alexander's forces to outmaneuver them. Alexander, facing the challenge of both the river and the enemy, has orchestrated a strategy designed to deceive. While his main camp remains visible on the northern bank, filled with fires and movement to maintain the illusion of inactivity, he leads a select force upstream under cover of darkness and the noise of a thunderstorm. The chosen crossing point is obscured by a wooded island, providing the cover he needs to execute the maneuver. His force is composed of elite units, companion cavalry under his direct command, light infantry, and sections of the Macedonian phalanx, all chosen for their ability to move swiftly and strike with precision. They land in silence, forming ranks quickly on the opposite bank before advancing toward Porus's outposts. Porus, realizing too late that he has been deceived, responds immediately. He pulls his cavalry and a portion of his infantry from their original positions and redirects them toward the Macedonian incursion. The battlefield is no longer dictated by the defensive line he had envisioned. Instead, the engagement will unfold on ground Alexander has chosen. The deception has worked, but the true battle is about to begin. The first clash comes swiftly. As Porus moves his cavalry toward the advancing Macedonians, Alexander sees his opening. He leads the companion cavalry in a sharp maneuver, feigning a retreat toward uneven ground. The Indian horsemen pursue, eager to strike before the Macedonians can fully form their battle lines. But the withdrawal is a trap. Alexander suddenly wheels around, and his cavalry, now reinforced by mounted archers, surges forward. The Indian cavalry, caught off balance, is driven back toward their own infantry lines. Porus, realizing the danger, orders his war elephants forward. The massive beasts, each carrying a mahout and a contingent of armed warriors, move steadily toward the enemy. The ground trembles beneath their advance, their tusks gleaming with iron fittings designed to crush shields and tear through ranks. The Macedonian phalanx braces, spears angled forward, the front lines tightening into disciplined formations. As the elephants reach the Macedonian front, the battle turns into a chaotic struggle. The beasts charge into the ranks, tossing men aside, breaking formations, and forcing soldiers to fight in scattered clusters. But Alexander's men have trained for this. They do not engage the elephants head-on. Instead, they weave through the gaps, striking at the mahouts to sever the control of the creatures. Javelins and spears find their mark, wounding the animals and sending some into a panic, trampling the troops around them, Indian and Macedonian alike. The infantry battle rages, but Alexander remains in motion. Seeing the Indian cavalry regrouping on the flank, he launches another attack. His cavalry smashes into them again, this time from multiple angles. The Indian horsemen, their movements constricted by the dense fighting between the infantry and elephants, begin to break. The Macedonian forces press forward, capitalizing on every moment of hesitation. Porus fights with the stubbornness of a commander unwilling to concede the field. He rides atop an elephant at the center of the battle, directing his forces even as they falter. He refuses to surrender, his warriors rallying around him. But his army is exhausted, their formations shattered. The elephants, now largely uncontrolled, are either dead, rampaging, or unable to advance. The weight of battle has shifted irrevocably in Alexander's favor. The encirclement tightens. The Macedonian phalanx regains cohesion, the cavalry completes its final sweep, and Porus, wounded and surrounded, can do nothing but stand among his men as his army collapses around him. The Hydaspes runs red, the ground littered with fallen soldiers and animals. The battle is over. The battlefield is silent. The elephants that once charged with terrifying force now lie motionless, their great forms scattered among the fallen. Thousands of men, Macedonian and Indian alike, are dead or wounded. The ground is thick with mud, blood, and broken weapons. But in the center of it all, atop his war elephant, King Porus still sits, injured, exhausted, but unbroken. Alexander approaches. He has seen many defeated rulers flee, beg, or betray their men to save themselves. But Porus has done none of these things. He has fought until the very end. When Alexander asks him how he wishes to be treated, Porus responds with a single statement, like a king. The words impress Alexander, and instead of executing him or stripping him of his rule, he does something unexpected. He restores Porus to his throne, making him a satrap under Macedonian authority. Not only that, but he expands Porus's domain, rewarding the very man who had opposed him. The battlefield victory secures Alexander's control over the Punjab. To commemorate his triumph, he orders the construction of 2 cities, Nicaea, named after the Greek word for victory, and Bucephala, in honor of his horse Bucephalus, who has either died from wounds sustained in battle or simply from exhaustion after years of relentless campaigning. But despite the victory, the battle marks a turning point, not for Alexander's expansion, but for its limits. The fighting has taken a heavy toll on his army. The Macedonians, who have followed him since the Hellespont, have fought in deserts, mountains, and endless fields of war. And now, faced with the vast unknown of India and rumors of even larger armies beyond the next river, their patience has worn thin. When Alexander pushes forward toward the Hydaspes River, expecting to continue his campaign, his men refuse. The empire they have carved out stretches from Greece to Egypt, from Babylon to the Himalayas, but they will go no further. For the first time in his career, Alexander does not conquer. He is forced to turn back. The Battle of the Hydaspes is more than a victory. It is a moment that defines both Alexander's legacy and the endurance of those who stood against him. Porus remains a ruler, not a prisoner. The Macedonians win the battle, but they begin to question the cost of endless conquest. And in the end, it is not an enemy that halts Alexander's advance, but the will of his own men. We'd love to hear your thoughts on possible future topics. What areas of human evolution would you like to explore next? Leave your suggestions in the comments, and let's keep the conversation going. As always, our references and further reading are listed in the description below if you'd like to dive deeper into the subject. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.